Mode 1.
Now, you know, some of you guys are funny. And it's not like I didn't anticipate this, because I always anticipated. If you've been following me for a while, you know that every year there's probably a 2-week, 3-week, 4-week, 5-week, as long as maybe 6-week stretch where I'll do videos that deal with the theme of direct verbal game versus indirect verbal game. Direct verbal game versus indirect verbal game. And each time I do it, it provokes a lot of indirect verbal game enthusiasts and supporters to come out the woodworks in my comment section, posting various comments. And back in, 2017, 2018, when I was more lenient in my comment section, I would allow a lot of these, contrarian comments and rebuttals and challenges to direct verbal game to stay posted. But starting with last year all the way up until now, no less than 90% of them get deleted. So if you're an indirect verbal game enthusiast and you recently commented over the last week, week and a half, you commented in my comment section, but you no longer see your comment, it's because I deleted it. Because I deleted it. And what's really insulting to me, and I've pointed this out before, here's what's really irritating and insulting to me, is when people talk to me. I have to put a particular emphasis on younger guys that are significantly younger than me, like guys in their 20s, 30s. Will make comments to me as if I've never, ever experimented with indirect game. Like, some guys will post comments almost like with the assumption that I'm totally ignorant to indirect game. It's like with this attitude, like, Alan, you should try indirect game. You might like it. Nigga. That even goes to my non-black followers and supporters who heavily favor indirect verbal game. So when I say the N-word, I'm not even just talking to black male haters, critics, and people who favor indirect game. Dude, I'm 57 years old. What do any of you all think that I haven't experimented with for at least a year or two? What do you think I have not experimented with for at least a year or two? Please enlighten me. Dude, I done it all, man. That's why I keep telling you guys, and again, particularly you young guys, man, everything y'all have experienced with women, multiply that times 10, and that's me. Everything, the only exception I would say is marriage and divorce. That's the only thing I can say. I'm engaged right now, so this will be my first marriage. I haven't experienced firsthand firsthand marriage before. But my brother's been married, so I've observed it very closely. A number of my close friends and fraternity brothers have been married, so it's not like I'm even totally ignorant to marriage. I just haven't experienced it firsthand. I've never experienced marriage firsthand. So that's something I can say I haven't experienced firsthand. I haven't experienced divorce firsthand. I haven't experienced anything to do with child support legalities, because my fiance's child that she's pregnant with now will be my first son or daughter. And what else have I not experienced? Anything to do with getting financially raped in divorce court, I haven't experienced firsthand. So those are at least 4 things that I will say that even though I've observed it from relatives, close friends, fraternity brothers, I haven't experienced firsthand. I haven't experienced marriage firsthand. I haven't experienced divorce firsthand. I haven't experienced being financially raped through divorce firsthand. And I haven't experienced anything to do with raising children or having to do with the legalities of child support firsthand. So those are things that even at my age, I can't say I have not experienced. But anything to do with just generally getting a woman in bed, anything to do with attracting women, seducing women, getting women in bed and fucking them, there's not anything I haven't experienced or experimented with. Nothing. So again, I find it highly insulting. Not too many guys do this, but I've had a handful of guys. They'll write comments like they trying to enlighten me on the benefits of indirect game. Dude, I've been indirect before. Even since I started being Mo 1 back in 1984, there were times off and on where I was indirect. Like one story I told a few times, probably the very last time I was indirect in a major way was the infamous hotel story that happened in May of 2007. I was indirect with a woman. Yeah, I'm going to try to skip over detail. I want to rehash the whole story because I've told it at least a half a dozen times. But probably one of the last times I used Mo 2 with a woman instead of Mo 1 and fairly quickly regretted it was in May of 2007. I was at a party. A buddy of mine was giving a birthday party for his wife. And me and this woman who was a friend of my buddy's wife, she had flown into Chicago from Pittsburgh. And we had like this roughly 45-minute conversation at the party that actually centered around my book. Because somebody happened to mention at the party that I was a book author, and the woman asked me what was the name of my book. And I told her Mo 1. She asked me, what was it about? So that's the ironic thing about the story. We were actually talking about like Mo 1 versus Mo 2 versus Mo 3 versus Mo 4. And then about maybe roughly 45, 50 minutes into the conversation, it was a lot of noise going on. It was like a house party. It was in a friend's basement, a lot of music going on. And she was tired of talking over the noise. So she said, would you like to go back to my hotel room? And of course I said, sure. And the mistake I made, and again, I've told this story a number of times, the mistake I made is that when she said, would you like to go back to my hotel room? You know, there's this phrase that some people see what they want to see, read what they want to read, or hear what they want to hear. And that's been proven to be factual. I know for a fact just from some of my videos I've done. Some people will totally distort things I've said because they hear what they want to hear. Matter of fact, I'm going to touch on that towards the latter part of this video related to this accusation that I'm now a purple pill dating coach. But But yeah, a lot of people have the bad habit of seeing what they want to see, reading what they want to read, and hearing what they want to hear. So when she said, "Would you like to go back to my hotel room?" in my ears translated that into, "Would you like to go back to my hotel room and fuck?" Even though she didn't actually say that. But that's how it got translated in my ears. So, of course, I said, sure. So we went to her hotel. We talked for about, I don't know, about maybe roughly 5 minutes. Then we start tongue kissing. Then she allowed me to take off all her clothes, with the exception of her bra and her panties. So yeah, I had her in the bed with just her bra and panties on. And when I was like sucking on her nipples, sucking on her tits, squeezing her tits, she didn't have no adverse reaction. But the problem started when I slid my hand like underneath her panties, basically going towards her clit, because I was going to start finger fucking it. And she like stopped my hand. And the first time I just kind of let it go. I didn't trip. Then we kissed some more, sucked on her titties some more. Then the second time I went to finger fuck her. And she stopped my hand the second time. And I kind of gave a look like, like, what's up? And she just gave me a look basically like, no, I don't want you to do that. So then we tongue kissed some more, made out some more. And then a third and final time, I went to finger fuck her. And for the third time, she stopped my hand. She grabbed my hand and stopped it. And I kind of like snapped at her. I was like, what's up? Why you keep stopping? Why you keep grabbing my hand? She said, it should be obvious, Mr. Currie. I don't want you to touch my pussy with your hand. What don't you get about that? I said, and my basic attitude was, well, why have we been doing all this kissing? Why are you in your bra and panties if you ain't gonna no, let me rewind. First thing I asked, I said, are you on your period? I thought it was because she was on her period. I said, is it that time of the month you on your period? She said, no. Then I said, well, then why you keep stopping me then? And she said, because I don't want you to do it. And I was basically like, but we in the bed. You damn near naked already. You just got on, your bra. You barely got on your bra because I've been pulling your bra to the side to suck in your tits. And you just got on your panties. I mean, what's up? And she said, oh, I don't mind making out with you. Tongue kissing and that type of stuff. I don't even mind you sucking on my titties. But she said, as far as anything that represents oral sex or intercourse, I can tell you right now, that's not happening. She said, so it ain't no point in you finger fucking, because she said, I can guarantee you that your dick is not going in my mouth and your dick is not going in my pussy. And I think she even added her ass, I'm not sure. But she definitely said, your dick is not going in my mouth and it's not going in my pussy. She said, but other than that, I don't mind. Like just, tongue kissing. But she said, you're not my man. She said, contrary to popular belief, not all women are into casual sex. She said, if you were my man, then yeah, I would let you fuck me. But you're not my man. She said, so ain't no fucking taking place tonight. Ain't no dick sucking taking place tonight. And then, as most people who've heard this story before, I went into mode 4. I ain't gonna lie. I went from mode 2 to mode 4. I like snapped. I was basically like, bitch, why the fuck you invite me back to your hotel room then? Why the fuck you invite me here if you ain't trying to fuck? Why you invite me back here if you ain't trying to fuck? And this is where she shut me up. This is where she shut me up. And see, this is where I regretted using indirect game. And mode 2 is a form of indirect game. She said, she said, Mr. Currie, to my recollection, I did not specifically say, would you like to come back to my hotel room and fuck me? Did I say that? And I said, touche. And then she said, secondly, Here's where she really called me out. I have to give her props. She called me out. She said, here you are, the author of a book called Mo One, which is all about being upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest about your desires, interests, and intentions. But when I invited you back to the hotel room, at no point did you quickly say, are we going back to your hotel room to fuck? See, that would have been Mo One. If at the time I said, would you like to go back to my hotel room, you clarified and said, hey, are we going back to your hotel room to engage in sexual intercourse? Are we going back there to fuck? She said that would have been Mo One. But she said, no, you were, by your own descriptions of your four modes, she said you were Mo Two. You just said sure. But I never gave you any indication that we were going back to my hotel room to fuck. Because she said, I know you can ask any of my girlfriends. She said, I don't indulge in casual sex. She said, if you're not my man, if we're not considered in a relationship, I don't do oral sex and I don't fuck. She said, now, if you're not my man, I'll tongue kiss you. I'll let you, squeeze on my tits, squeeze on my ass, just generally make out. But she said, your dick ain't going to end up in my mouth and it ain't going to end up in my pussy. And I said, okay. I said, you got me. I said, you're right. I wasn't Mo One. And she said, okay, I'm glad you acknowledged it. And man, I left her hotel room. And again, I've told this story at least a half a dozen times here on YouTube. I've told it when I was on Blog Talk Radio. Man, I was so pissed. Ooh. Man, if y'all had a video of me when I was leaving that hotel room in my car, y'all would be cracking up laughing. Y'all would be, because y'all seen me get angry on some of my YouTube videos. So think of the moments in some of my YouTube videos where I've gotten super duper angry and maybe multiplied times two. Man, I was hot. I was like mumbling under my breath. I was calling her all kinds of bitches. But once I settled down from my anger, I had to realize she was right. See, at first I was looking at her as the bad guy. But the reality was, I wasn't Mo One. See, all of that could have been avoided if I would have been Mo One. If, like she said, if at the time she said, would you like to go back to my place? I would have just specifically said, so once we get back to your hotel room, we going to be fucking, right? You going to let me tear that ass up? You going to let me fuck that pussy, ain't you? See, that would have been Mo One. But what's the old adage about assuming? When you assume, you make an ass out of you and an ass out of me. When she said, would you like to go back to my hotel room? I confidently assumed that meant she wanted to go back to the hotel room and fuck. But the reality is, it didn't. And similarly, I also told this story a couple of times about when I was a freshman in college. Like, I've heard a lot of guys say, well, Alan, I don't go as far as to specifically tell women, I want you to come back to my place and fuck. I just tell women, hey, would you like to come back to my place? And if they say yes, then I know that 99.9% chance they down to fuck. That's bullshit. I wrote an article on when I used to write for the Examiner about that. That's bullshit. And any guy will tell you different, he lying to you. That's bullshit. Because I know for a fact, there was one year I used to do that a lot, was when I was a freshman, somebody calling me. When I was a freshman in college at any university, I had my own dormitory room. I was one of the few freshmen that lived in a dormitory room by myself. Like most freshmen on campus, they had to share. They had a roommate. But I had my own dormitory room. So a lot of times I would go to parties, and as the party was coming to a close, usually the average party would last anywhere from 9 p.m. to about 1 p.m., no later than 2 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. or no later than 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. So usually in that last half hour to hour of a party that I would go to, if I identified a woman that I wanted to connect with, I would usually say, hey, I'm Alan, what's your name? They say, Felicia. I say, hey, Felicia, You want to come back to my dormitory room? And a lot of these women would say, sure. Now, if you were to go on what a lot of indirect guys would tell you, you would mistakenly believe that automatically means that if a woman says sure, that means she down to fuck. I would say no less than 60% of the time that I invited a woman to come back to my dormitory room, that woman did not end up giving me no pussy. A lot of times they wouldn't even end up just making out with me, like tongue kissing and stuff. A lot of women would be offended when I would get physical with them. They would be like, is that why you invited me back to your room? Because you thought I wanted to have sex with you? I don't want to have sex with you. I thought we were just coming back to your dormitory room to talk. I didn't plan on having sex with you. And I know it's just not me, because I've talked to different friends and fraternity brothers and other acquaintances over the years that have had similar experiences. Because I remember there was this movie with Ryan Gosling called Crazy Stupid Love, where that's what he was doing. That was his number one technique for getting women in bed. They would show him at some kind of bar or restaurant, and he would just simply say to women, hey, you want to come back to my place? And a woman would say, sure. And they would, just magically end up in bed. And a lot of guys would try to argue, yeah, Alan, you don't have to go as far as to say, hey, I want to fuck you, or, I want you to come back to my place and suck my dick. All you got to do is just simply say, hey, you want to come back to my place? See, I just brought him up in my very last video. Guess who used that technique and paid for it? Aziz Ansari. That's the exact thing Aziz Ansari. He took this woman out to dinner, made no mention of a desire to have sex with her. Then he just, after the dinner was over, he said, hey, you want to come back to my place? And she said, sure. And then once she came back to his place, he started making moves on her. And she was basically like, what the fuck? Now, in his partial defense, she did end up sucking his dick. He didn't force her to suck it. She sucked it on her own. So she did admit that she sucked his dick, not once, but twice. She sucked his dick twice. But I don't want to rehash his story again, but she went on to vilify him in an article saying that she felt like it was a bait and switch. She said when she went back to his apartment, she had no intentions of engaging in oral sex or intercourse with him. None. Plausible deniability. So all that to say, man, I've learned my lessons over the years about direct versus indirect. I've learned my lessons about it. So first, to people posting in my comment section, I'm telling you right now, and you should know this already, if you come in my comment section trying to basically argue against direct and or highly promote indirect over direct, there's a 95 to 99% chance I'm going to delete your comment. Trust me, I will. I'm going to delete your shit because it's bullshit. All your arguments are bullshit. Y'all act like I ain't heard y'all arguments and rebuttals before. I've heard them all, man. Again, I'm 57, man. I ain't no 29-year-old snotty-nosed kid. I done heard all these arguments before. Ever since I became I would say starting with the mid to late 1990s, if not before that, I've heard pretty much every argument in favor of indirect verbal game over direct verbal game that a man can possibly hear. I done heard every motherfucking argument. And quite frankly, I'm tired of y'all arguments, man, because they're all weak. They're all weak. I can shred all of them to pieces. I can shred all of them to pieces. Trust me, I can. I have before, and I know I can do it again. So don't waste your time coming to my comment section saying all this bullshit. Really, man, when it comes down to the gritty, all the arguments really come down to three major arguments. There might be a few miscellaneous minor arguments, but as far as major arguments, it really comes down to three arguments that indirect guys who favor indirect verbal game tend to pose to me as a rebuttal to me promoting direct verbal game. So I'm going to go one by one on the top 3 general major arguments I've heard that favor indirect game over direct game. I'll start with the third most frequently heard argument I've heard and read. The third most frequently posed argument that I've read and or heard, which is no man should ever exclusively use direct verbal game with women or exclusively use indirect verbal game with women. All men should use a blend of the two depending on the type of woman they're dealing with. And they'll usually go on to say, Alan, I've had some women that I felt like indirect worked better, and I've had some women that I felt like direct worked better. I think it depends on the woman. I think it depends. Like some guys have tried to suggest that basically the more of a good girl a woman is, the more of a prudish or semi-prudish good girl a woman is, the more you should use indirect verbal game. But if a woman already has a reputation for being kinky and somewhat promiscuous, and you know for a fact that other guys have tapped that ass within 24 to 72 hours after they met her, then that's when I would say you should go ahead and use direct game. And in these guys' partial defense, I used to think that way. I think I admit that in my original Mode 1 book, my 1999 version of Mode 1, and to a lesser extent, my 2006 version of Mode 1. I used to think that way. Matter of fact, if you remember, I told this story where I picked up this woman who was a former student of my mother. My mother used to be a school teacher. And I picked up this woman. She was a former student of my mother's. And when I was telling that story, I admitted that I used to have that line of thinking. I used to basically believe that Mode 1 was more effective with a woman that you already know is kinky to one degree or another and promiscuous to one degree or another. But if you're dealing with a classy, prudish or semi-prudish good girl type, that you should relegate yourself to exhibiting Mode 2 behavior. Only to realize over the next few years that was bullshit. Here's the deal, man. So-called classy women who come from middle class, upper middle class families, they like dick too. They got a pussy that gets wet too. So, all you guys that believe that you should only be Mode 2 with women who seem to come from like a middle class or upper middle class family and have a reputation for being the proverbial good girl, but then you should be Mode 1 with the women who already have a reputation for essentially being kinky sluts, that's bullshit. Y'all need to read my book, Who Said Again. That's all I gotta say if you haven't read it already. If you think like that, my simple recommendation would be you need to read my book, or preferably get my audiobook version of Who Said Again, that centers on the sexual duplicity of women. The sexual duplicity of women, man. In simple terms, classy women know how to put on facades. Classy women know how to put on facades. Yes, they do. They know how to put on facades. And speaking of that story about me picking up the woman, what was the most interesting thing that woman said to me? I don't want to go into the whole story because it's too long. And I want to save some time for this video to talk about something else. But she said, all women pretty much know as soon as a man initiates a conversation with us that he wants to fuck us. On our end, the woman's end, we just curious of how he's going to go about letting us know. Is he going to try to hide it? Is he going to beat around the bush? Or is he going to have the balls and backbone to straightforwardly tell us? Or the other option was, is he going to offer us money or materialistic gifts for it? Yeah, women, they know you want to fuck as soon as you act extra friendly with them or flirtatious with them. They know you want to fuck. Like if anybody who's listening to me watched that videotape from when I spoke at the 2017 21 convention, I said when I spoke in London in November 2010, there was a point in the presentation, me and David X were on stage, and this woman challenged me. And she temporarily put my credibility on the line. This was what I would call a turning point moment of my credibility as a dating coach. Because the woman simply said, she said, Alan, I disagree with your mode one approach. I said, okay, on what basis? She said, because all us women know, just by the way you look at us, by the way you talk to us, we know you want to fuck us. We know you want to fuck us. So therefore, there's no reason for you to actually verbalize your sexual desires, interests, and intentions. Because we know you want to fuck us. And at least 2/3 of the audience start rubbing their chins like, damn, that's true. That's true. And they start kind of giving me that look like, Alan, I agree with her. I don't think you know what you're talking about. What's the point of verbally telling a woman you want to fuck her when she already knows just by the fact that you're, spending time with her, talking to her, that you want to fuck her? So yeah, the crowd was kind of getting restless. But I very calmly was just like, hold up. I didn't say much, but I just kind of gestured like stay calm, stay patient. The truth will come to the surface soon enough. Anyway, keeping the story brief, yeah, sure enough, about roughly 20 minutes, no more than 25 minutes later, we had been talking to these two women on stage, and the same woman who challenged the effectiveness of my Mode 1 approach, she admitted that she had this purely platonic friend. I can't remember his name. Let's call him Christopher. She admitted that she had this purely platonic male friend named Christopher. And she kept talking about how sweet he was and how he did little favors for her. And David X called her out. David X was like, right now, the more I hear you talk about this friend of yours named Christopher, the more I think you're being a bitch. David X, man, I love that. David X, he would keep it raw. Like, he literally told me one time, his term for a manipulative time waster, what I call manipulative time waster, he simply calls a bitch. That's simply his term for a manipulative time waster, is a bitch. And that's what he told this woman. He said, you're being a bitch. And she was like, how so? Why are you calling me a bitch? How am I being a bitch? He said, because this friend of yours named Christopher wants to date you, or at minimum, he wants to fuck you. You know that. Deep down, you know that. You know good and well that Christopher is not spending time with you because he enjoys having you as just a platonic female friend. You know deep down that Christopher wants to either be your boyfriend, or if he doesn't want to be your boyfriend, that he wants to fuck you. And she said, well, I don't know if that's true. That might be true. I don't think it is. And here's what she said, the key thing that vindicated me. She said, I don't think he does because he's never said anything. And then I just looked at the audience and put my hands like this, like, didn't I tell you? And everybody just started laughing. And everybody started chanting, Mode 1, Mode 1. See, that proved why you need to verbally express your sexual desires, interests, and intentions. Similar to going back to the hotel story with that woman, why you need to verbally express it. See, I even heard Alpha Male Strategies. He said that. When O'Shea Duke Jackson was interviewing Alpha Male Strategies, he said that. He said the same thing that woman said in London. He said, I don't feel like you should have to verbally express your sexual desires, interests, and intentions to a woman, because women, they all know you want to fuck them as soon as you approach them and initiate a conversation. So why do you have...
Right. So this is my thing with the mode one approach.
Okay.
The mode one approach is basically you coming up to a woman and you pretty much letting her know from the get-go that you want sex. Which this is my point with why I didn't like that. The point with that is, anytime you being nice to a woman, she already know you want sex. Anytime, O'Shea, if you go and open a door, you might don't come back on it. She knows you want sex.
Okay.
If I go up and I talk to the girls at the gym just about some innocuous shit, by hey, you seen that game? She know in her head right then, a woman know instantly he trying to get in my pants.
Mm-hmm.
Every woman knows that. It don't have to be said. A woman know you ain't just coming up to her so you can go to the baseball game with her. She know what your ultimate goal is. So it's kind of like, to me, is irrelevant.
Even Steven D. Williams, I remember me and Steven D. Williams got into it a few years ago because he said the same thing. He was telling his listeners on a video, he said, you don't need to verbally express your sexual desires, interests, and intentions to a woman because they already knew it. But see, this woman in London, with the help of David X, proved why I'm mode one. Because if what she said was true, why is Christopher her fucking platonic friend? Why? Why? Why didn't she straightforwardly tell Christopher, I'm never going to give you this pussy? I'm never going to be your girlfriend. You ain't never getting in this pussy. Why? Hashtag manipulative time wasters. That's the very reason why you have manipulative time wasters. Manipulative time wasters bank on you not verbally expressing your sexual desires, interests, and intentions to them in a upfront and straightforward manner. They bank on that. They hope you try to keep your sexual desires to yourself. They hope that you try to be vague and ambiguous. That's how they play your fucking ass. I ain't about to be played. Anyway, I went on a long digression. I was talking about the top 3 arguments that indirect verbal game enthusiasts pose to me. And so let me recap. Number 3 is no man should ever exclusively use direct verbal game with women, nor should he exclusively use indirect verbal game with women. I think a man should use both depending on the type of woman they're dealing with. And again, what they mean by type of woman, what they're basically saying is the more a woman carries herself like the proverbial good girl, the more you should lean towards a mode 2 approach, or even possibly a mode 3. Whereas if you're dealing with a woman that you know for a fact is kinky and promiscuous to one degree or another, then that's when you should go ahead and be mode 1. That's an invalid argument, for the simple fact that there's a lot of women who know how to put on very believable facades that they're a good girl. Again, I would just recommend that you read either the ebook version, paperback version, or preferably purchase the audiobook version of my book, Who Said Again. I break all that shit down related to that argument. Now, let's move to the second most frequently posed argument by guys who favor indirect verbal game over direct verbal game. Indirect game is better than direct game because when you are direct with a woman, you're going to get blown out of the water, which is a conventional PUA term for you're going to be rejected in a very quick, abrupt, and many times unnecessarily harsh, rude, and impolite manner. And secondly, you're going to inevitably leave a lot of pussy on the table that you could have taken advantage of. Now, most of y'all are familiar with this argument. I just addressed this argument in at least 2 of my last 5 videos. You got to pick on Alpha Male. Alpha Male James was probably the most prominent person who put forth that argument, is that if you use direct game, you're gonna end up leaving a lot of pussy on the table. That's bullshit, for the simple fact you can't leave pussy on the table if pussy ain't been offered to you. Let me repeat that. You can't leave pussy on the table if pussy has not been officially offered. You know what that's like me saying? That's like me I want to go to a nightclub. And so I tell one of my friends, I say, hey man, you should go to this nightclub tonight. And he's like, oh no, man, I've been to a nightclub a few times. And it never happened. I never ended up hooking up with no woman. I said, oh man, so you're not going to a nightclub tonight? You know, if you don't go to the nightclub tonight, you know you leaving pussy on the table. That's stupid. I question the intelligence of a lot of you guys. Seriously, I really do. I question the intelligence of a lot of you guys. Some of you guys, y'all don't have all your dogs barking up here. And that's just real talk. And finally, the number one argument I receive from guys who are fans and supporters of indirect verbal game over direct verbal game would be this. Indirect game is better because it gives you more of an opportunity to allow your personality to shine, and you avoid having all the emphasis be placed solely on your physical appearance / looks and your masculine sex appeal alone. Now here's where I gotta pick on alpha male strategies again. As I pointed out before, he makes that very argument in his new book, his second dating advice book. That's the argument he makes in chapter 65, which is the chapter where he says why he's against the direct approach. That argument I just explained is the argument that alpha male strategies make. He basically says that one of the number one reasons why he's against using the direct approach, or what's also known as direct verbal game, is because it de-emphasizes your personality, and that it doesn't give you a chance to build interest and increase sexual attraction over a period of 2 dates, 3 dates, 4 dates, 5 dates. Yeah, I already spent the last 3 or 4 videos destroying that argument. It's bullshit. Playing simple terms, it's a bullshit argument, man. And the main reason why it's bullshit is because of this. When it comes to casual sex, I'm not talking about long-term relationships, anything long-term that involves, now when it comes to any type of relationship where you're going to be spending time with a woman both sexually and non-sexually, you're going to be spending just as much, if not more time with a woman non-sexually as you will sexually, then that's when I will argue, that's when I will agree that argument is fairly valid. That's when I would agree, and I've said this before, that's when I'll agree that number one argument is fairly valid. If you're talking about your objective is to engage in a series of interactions with a woman where you're going to be spending just as much, if not more time with her non-sexually as you are sexually, then I would say that argument has validity. But if you're talking about for a casual lover / strictly nothing more than a fuck buddy type relationship, then that's when I would say that argument is bullshit. And if you don't believe me, do your own informal survey of women. I guarantee you, I guarantee you that 90% of women are going to, if not 99% of women are going to agree with me. I've already talked about this subject with a number of women over the last probably 30 years. Most recently, when I went to Los Angeles in November 2018, I ended up having like a roughly about 15 conversations with women related to my books, related to direct versus indirect, alpha versus beta, and other associated topics and subtopics. And pretty much every woman I talked to confirmed what I already knew. They basically said, when it comes to selecting a guy to be a casual sex fuck buddy, they know within the first 5 to 10 minutes after they meet a guy if that guy is fuck buddy material or not. It don't take no woman 2 dates, 3 dates, 4 dates, 5 dates to determine if she wants you to be a fuck buddy. Now, if you're talking about a long-term boyfriend, yes, it might take that long. If you're talking about a future husband, it's probably going to take that long, if not longer. But I'm talking about specifically a casual sex fuck buddy. Women know on average and no later than the 10-minute mark of their first conversation with you whether or not they want you to be their casual sex fuck buddy. It don't take 2 dates. It don't take 3 dates. It don't take 4 dates. It don't take 5 dates. And anybody who tries to say it does, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're going to waste time being indirect. You're going to waste money being indirect. Will you get laid with a certain number of women and percentage of women? Of course you will. I've never denied that. You can get laid being indirect, so I would never suggest you can't get laid being indirect. You can get laid being... I give you a perfect example. I told this story a couple times. I had a Patreon subscriber just, I want to say last year? Or was it 2018? Now I can't remember. I can't remember if this was last year or I think it was 2018. I think it was fall of 2018. I had a Patreon subscriber. Let's call him John. John, he had been a Patreon subscriber of mine since summer of 2017 all the way up until about July or August of 2018. Then I noticed he unsubscribed. And he was one of my most loyal Patreon subscribers, but he unsubscribed. And then about roughly 4 or 5 months later, he came back. He resubscribed. So I didn't say anything at first. I just noticed he came back, but I didn't ask him a bunch of questions. I just kind of was like, okay, maybe he had some financial difficulties and he needed to take a break. But anyway, long story short, he ended up writing me. He said, Alan, I don't know if you noticed, but I stopped being a Patreon subscriber of yours for about 4 or 5 months. And I said, yeah, I noticed. And he said, I'm going to tell you the reason why. He said, man, he said it was a combination of 2 reasons. He said, number one, some of your videos, what I would call your hardcore red pill videos, the videos that you would label as your hardcore red pill videos, they were starting to cause me to develop a lot of negative, pessimistic, and borderline misogynistic attitudes towards women. Because I started mainly because after listening to some of your videos, he said, I started looking at all women as basically closet sluts. I just talked about that in a recent video. I said a lot of guys, they look at all sexually duplicitous women as being basically closet whores and closet sluts. Anyway, this guy who I call John, that's what he said. He said, I was starting to look at all women as, I was starting to believe there was no true good girls left in the world, that all women were just closet sluts. So he said, that was the number one thing that made me unsubscribe. And he said, the second thing, I was starting to have doubts about the effectiveness of direct verbal game versus indirect verbal game. I was starting to slowly but surely feel like maybe indirect game is better. So I wanted to experiment with it, even though I'd already been indirect before. So he basically said he spent a minimum of about 3.5 to 4 months going back to being just totally indirect with women. And what was his general conclusion? Is what I knew it would be. Here's the positive end. On the positive end, he said, when I went back to exclusively to indirect game, he said, did I get laid? He said, yeah. There was probably about 3 women I ended up fucking. But he said the downside was 2 things. He said, number one, downside was, even with the women that I did fuck, I felt like I had to invest much more time and much more money into fucking them than I did when I used direct game, which was your Mode 1 approach. He said, so that was drawback number one, is that even with the women I did fuck, I invested more time and I invested more money. And then he said, even more so, drawback number 2, I encountered a boatload of manipulative time wasters. He said, I encountered a boatload of manipulative time wasters. Women who would try to give me the misleading impression that they were interested in us dating or interested in us fucking. But when it all came down to it, they just wanted some flattering attention, entertaining conversation, and an emotionally empathetic listening ear. And he said, that's what brought me back to you, because I realized, Alan, you were right. you know what the fuck you're talking about. That's what he said. He said, I realized after going back to Indirect that you are right, Alan. You know what the fuck you're talking about. Now, before I close out, I want to quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but a follower of mine sent me, somebody did a podcast. Somebody did, I'm not going to say the name. But anyway, in the comment section, some guys, were criticizing me. Well, it was kind of balanced. I ain't going to say it was total criticism. Some guys were actually defending me and giving me my props and respect. And then some other guys were criticizing me. But anyway, at least 2 or 3 of the criticisms was, man, I used to like Alan Roger Currie, man, when he was all about being hardcore red pill. But now that he's engaged, man, it seems to me that he's become a purple pill dating coach. He's become a purple pill dating coach. And because of that, I've lost respect for him, man. He's totally purple pill. Like one guy said, yeah, man, I agree, man. He's purple pill now. Now he's trying to get all guys to focus on long-term relationships and marriage instead of casual sex. I never thought I'd see the day where Alan Roger Currie would become so purple. Insert dog face here. Really? 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 See what did I say at the beginning of this video about, I made this point and I said I was going to get to this later, where I made the point that some people are guilty of seeing what they want to see, reading what they want to read, and hearing what they want to hear, even though it doesn't jive with what they actually saw, what they actually read, or what they actually heard. The guys making those comments, they full of shit. When have I ever started exclusively focusing on men only pursuing relationships that center around a long-term, emotionally profound, romantic relationship? When have I ever tried to encourage all my single heterosexual male listeners, viewers, and supporters to go out and start just proposing marriage like crazy? Name the video. Name the video where I did it. Since I got into my relationship with my current fiance, and even more so since I got engaged, identify one video where I told guys, hey guys, stop pursuing women for episodes of short-term non-monogamous casual sex. Okay? Stop doing that. Instead, pursue only women to be your next long-term girlfriend or your future wife. Name the video where I did that. I'll wait. See, this is how these distorted rumors end up getting started. That's bullshit, man. I ain't purple pill. I ain't purple pill like your boy. I can name at least 2 well-known people who did become purple pill. I mentioned these guys before. One, this guy named Tucker Max. Tucker Max, he used to be red pill. And then after he got married and had a child, he became very purple pill. And probably in the last year or so was Rouge V. Well, Rouge V's situation was different. Rouge V, it wasn't because of marriage or him entering into a long-term romantic relationship with a woman, but he became a born-again Christian. So his purple pillness came from his newly found religious beliefs. And yeah, now he's totally against the idea of engaging in short-term non-monogamous casual sex or really any form of premarital sex. I ain't changed like that. Really, here's the deal, though, when it comes to casual sex, and I've said this before. I've never done either one, and this is what people don't realize about me. I've never specifically encouraged men to only pursue short-term non-monogamous casual sex. Like, I remember one time Amir Obsidian Ali tried to say that all my books centered around the pursuit of short-term non-monogamous casual sex. That's not true. I've never tried to encourage men to pursue exclusive casual sex, nor have I tried to discourage men from pursuing women for casual sex companionship. What I've always said is, if casual sex is your interest, if short-term non-monogamous casual sex is indeed your interest, then you need to have the balls and backbone to be upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest about it, instead of being mode 2 or mode 3. That's what I've always said. I don't care what kind of companionship you want. Long-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, i.e. polyamory or open relationships, short-term monogamous, i.e. serial monogamy, or short-term non-monogamous, i.e. casual sex. I don't care which of those 4 types of sexual relationships you pursue. As long as you upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest about what type of companionship you want, I'm cool with it. I just have harsh criticism against men who are liars and disingenuous and misleading manipulators and verbal cowards. Liars, disingenuous and misleading manipulators, and even more so, just blatant verbal cowards. Those are 3 types of guys I always attack and criticize. Because y'all not men to me. Y'all not. Y'all can try to say y'all are, but in my mind, I'm speaking just for myself. In my mind, y'all ain't men to me. Y'all ain't real men to me. Y'all cowards, man. Ain't no real man got to lie to a woman about what type of sexual companionship he wants. Ain't no real man got to play these manipulative head games with women. A real man has balls, backbone. He ain't scared of rejection. He ain't scared of harsh criticisms and insults. He ain't scared of negative reactions from women. He says what he means and he means what he says. If he don't end up getting the pussy from a particular woman, so what? The world still goes round and round. He don't lose no sleep because he's real. He's authentic. That, in my mind, is a real motherfucking man.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Currie, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God, man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy's the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.